Hello ladies, welcome to my Friday Live. I'm in Copenhagen, so a lot of you are probably fast asleep right now, but you can catch this later. So I'm going to be doing this every Friday, answering any questions that you might have. So this week, Amber had a question for me, and that was, how do we heal this trauma if the trauma is so crucial to healing PMDD, which is what I've discovered in my life and with the work that I do with the ladies in the Red Tent program. So I'm going to go over that today, the process that I use, Rapid Transformational Therapy, how it actually works. And then I'm going to share with you some recent results, which are very typical results. It's not out of the ordinary, even though it seems miraculous and amazing and still blows me away every time. It's very common that these are the results that the women who work with me get through doing this very healing work, which is also a simple process, but it goes so deep that you can make changes that you probably thought you might be stuck with forever. So I want to give you some examples of the sorts of things that I've seen in my clients over the past couple of years that can lead to trauma. And trauma, I always want to sort of clarify, can be big trauma, the sort of trauma that we think of being held at gunpoint or being raped or seeing someone shot in front of you, something really traumatic. Sexual abuse you could consider would be trauma. But then there are also micro traumas, things that happen in daily life where you probably might overlook it as a trauma because it doesn't seem like anything when you look back on it. But the crucial thing with be it macro or micro trauma, it's not what happens to us that creates the trauma. And that's an easy thing to think, but it's not what happens to us. It's what we come to believe about ourselves as a result of what happens that creates the trauma. What's happened is over. It's in the past. It can't touch you. It's finished. The only thing that remains is what you believe about you as a result. And what you believe is often held in the subconscious. You might not even know what you believe. That's sort of like your deepest programming. All you see is the results of the programming in your life. For example, the symptoms that you experience premenstrually are signs that there is unresolved emotional pain inside of you. So if you're feeling, and just put a comment if you can relate to any of these sorts of feelings, deep sadness, just as if your whole body has been flooded with tears, like your blood has turned to tears. That's what I used to say to my husband. This is, if I could explain to you what it feels like, it is as though my blood has just turned to tears. I'm so deeply sad. Hot, heavy tears would just stream down my cheeks, and I couldn't even really say what it was. I just felt so worthless. I just felt so desperately sad. And that's very common to a lot of the women that I work with. Anger. Just justified anger. You feel like, no, I've got a right to be this angry, and I am right, and you've hurt me, and you're so inconsiderate, or whatever it happens to be. This irritation, anger that you can't control, almost like you're watching yourself from above going, oh God, here it goes again, but you can't stop it because you're flooded by the fight or flight response, which sort of takes you over and hijacks you. Suicidal thoughts, very common to the women that I work with. And I don't think I ever would have wanted to commit suicide, but I was definitely thinking, if only I could just disappear. I remember a long time ago, back when, I don't know if you ever remember, a few years ago when 2012 was going to be, by the Mayan calendar, the end of the world. That was predicted, and everyone thought 2012 was going to be the end. There was even a movie called 2012. And I was secretly hoping, oh, please can the world just end, please, because then I can just disappear. That was sort of the way I was thinking in those premenstrual dark moments. So perhaps you can relate to some of that. So where does it all come from? What's it all about? I used to think, oh, my hormones just make me crazy, but it's not that at all. The hormones, yes, of course, have a role to play, but what they're doing is taking you into your deeper psyche to feel, and you feel all the crap, and it's not obvious. It doesn't come up and explain itself and say this is why you feel this. It's subconscious, but you feel it. You feel it because it's the subconscious is held in the body as well. We feel these things very physically. So here are some examples of some of the things that people go back to in RTT, because RTT uses hypnosis and it uses regression, two aspects of hypnotherapy, but there are many other tools that we use as well. So it's sort of like a super hypnotherapy. So some of the things, sexual abuse is very, very common, which is not surprising that the reproductive area is where we have a lot of issues following, because sexual abuse is the trauma for some women. Now, the fascinating things, I've never had any sexual abuse in my own life, and I'm so grateful for that. So I didn't know a lot about it until my clients have taught me so much. What it is so often about, it's not the victimhood of having been sexually abused, which is of course a part of it, but it's very confusing because when you're a child, you don't know what sex is, you don't know what it means or anything. And I've had many clients who've been quite young, around maybe 5, 6 years old, and they've been touched inappropriately, perhaps by an adult or perhaps by an older child. And it's confusing for some of them because it actually feels quite nice. But they also have this feeling, but this is bad, this is wrong. And whenever there's a confusion in a child's mind, they don't like it, they want to make it match. And my clients so often will say, and I'm feeling sad, and I'm feeling lost, or I'm feeling scared, and I'm feeling confused. And as soon as I hear that confusion, I say, you're feeling confused, and tell me why. What is the confusion? What are the two ideas that don't match? And with sexual abuse, it's often this sort of feels exciting, and it feels a bit nice, and I feel special. So there's this sort of positive feelings, but this is bad, and this is wrong, and this is not good. And so that must mean, and I always say, so that must mean, what are you starting to believe as a child? Well, that must mean that I'm not good, I'm bad, there's something wrong with me. Because if this is bad, and part of me is enjoying the attention or the closeness or even the feeling, then I must be bad too. So that's one thing that's very common, and the belief you can see there is I'm bad, there's something wrong with me. And this is the belief that gets laid down. So it's not the sexual abuse itself that has created the trauma. The trauma is the belief, I'm a bad person, there's something wrong with me. We've lost the self-love. The self-love is whole, and then it gets splintered. And the thing that splinters it is the belief that you create about who you are. And that's the pain. And this is what we often don't see because it's very deep. We don't see what we've come to believe about ourselves. Another example is maybe making a mistake when you're little, a very innocent mistake. I had a client who forgot to feed her pet bird. And when she came back in and found that her bird was dead, and the guilt was just unbearable for her. And what does she start to believe? I'm a bad person. I should have known better. I was so selfish. And this had never really been processed. She'd never really been able to talk it through with anybody. No adult had ever been able to say to her, it's okay, you didn't mean to, you've made a mistake. She couldn't, the guilt was still in there. And it was because it hadn't been released, it hadn't been processed. This was something that was triggered for her premenstrually. So when she was able to go back, and this is the crucial part, actually I'm going to give you one more example, then I'll show you the next step that we do in order to heal. So another example was a little girl. She went back to a scene where she was 2 years old, and her mother was very depressed, and she always felt, I mustn't be good enough because everyone else's mummy seems happy, but I'm not making my mummy happy. And see, children aren't able to see adults as flawed. They think adults are perfect, and if there's anything wrong with an adult, it must be me that's making it the problem because I don't know anything yet, I'm just little. And the sweetest scene, this little girl, my client went back to a scene when she was a little girl, and she tried to make her mummy happy. She thought, if I clean the floor for mummy, then mummy will be happy. She's only 2, and she got this liquid soap and poured it all over the floor. It's like washing the floor. And her mother came in and just started shouting at her. And there's this confusion again. She said, and I'm feeling so confused. She's actually feeling just what the 2-year-old is feeling in regression. It's really amazing. So I'm feeling really confused. And I said, what's the confusion? She said, I thought I was doing something good. I thought this would make mummy happy, but it's made mummy really angry. And I said, okay. And in order to make that work, because the confusion needs to be sorted out. So why is that? And that must mean, so that must mean I'm wrong. If I thought it was good and it's bad, I can't trust myself. I can't trust my decisions. And she'd really lost a lot of faith in herself that day when she was 2. And it was still playing out in her life today. And she was in her early 40s. So there are a few examples. Everybody, if you've watched the masterclass, and if you haven't, please watch it. It's 26 minutes long. It will really enlighten you, I hope, as to what's really going on with PMDD. Then I've completely lost my train of thought now. with each of the women who I work with, you've all got your own box of pain. We all do. I had my box of pain. There's probably still a little bit in there. It's a constant journey of healing, loving everything back. It's bringing yourself back to wholeness. When you're born, you know you're enough. You know you're worthy. You know you're lovable. It's these decisions, these misinterpretations that you make about who you are that put a splinter in that wholeness. And then we do everything we can trying to look outside ourselves to try and heal this wound. But we're the only ones who can heal it because we're the ones who create it. This is the amazing thing. You're the one who decided you weren't enough. And now you need to decide that you are. And RTT helps this because when you go back, each of the women, when I'm just talking about each of this sexual abuse or doing something that you feel guilty for, like not feeding the bird and it died, or being shamed for doing something you thought was good. There are so many, but whatever it is, when you go back with your adult understanding and love and compassion to that little girl, and you see that scene again, with your adult understanding, you say, no, sweetheart, you were such a beautiful little girl trying to clean the floor for your mummy. You were right to do that. She was very sad. She had her own problems. It wasn't about you. And you can actually talk to your younger self in hypnosis and get them up to speed on the truth because you see them as innocent. It's your own wisdom. It's your own vision of that child that heals the child. Because immediately you just drop the beliefs that you created back then. And because all this stuff lies in the subconscious, you can't see it without hypnosis. If I asked each of these clients beforehand, why are you so angry? Why do you have this deep sadness? They would say, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea why it's there. I've tried and tried. I've been to therapy. I've talked it to death. I've divorced from my husband, as I did too. All these different things we do trying to fix it. We need to go back. We need to go back to the child where it all began, where the original wound was created. Bring our adult awareness and understanding to that scene and update it. Just like updating the operating system on your phone. You wouldn't run OS 1 on when you have an iPhone 11. It's not even going to work, and it's the same. You can feel the clunkiness of this old programming as you are growing, getting older. It's showing you have to change this. This isn't working for you anymore. And that's just what PMDD is. It's like a spotlight on the pain saying, please look at this. You need to heal it. So that is what we do in the Red Tent. It is about healing the pain. And I don't know if I can share my screen. I've never really done this before. Well, I want to share with you the recent results. I'm just going to read them out. I wish I could share my screen, but I don't know how to do it because I'm not really that clever when it comes to Facebook Lives. So I want to share with you recent results I got back. So this is a six-month follow-up, okay? So when my client started the program, her self-hatred, self-loathing, negative self-talk, she put at a 10, meaning it can't get any worse. After completing the program, it is a 0. There is no negative self-talk left. And I don't think even the average person could probably say that. The the thing with this program is it's not just healing PMDD, it's so much more. You come to heal PMDD, but you change your whole life. Crying spells, frequency and intensity shattered 7. That went down to 1. You know, still a woman, a few tears. I still cry too, and I wouldn't want to stop crying. Crying is a good thing. It's very releasing. Angry outbursts, a 10. She'd broken stuff, throwing things at her husband. Really just full-on rage. Now it's down to a 1. Irrational negative emotions, 10, down to a 1. Panic attacks, anxiety, 10. She's been in hospital twice after suicide attempts. Down to 0. Okay. Lack of energy, 10. Could sleep all day long. Couldn't even go to work a couple of days before her period. That's now a 0. She's up every morning with her daughter, 6 a.m., full of energy. Suicidal thoughts. When she came to me, that was around about a 6. And now it's 0. Sleeping in the day was at a 10. Her husband had to take over everything for her. That's down to 0. Feelings of hopelessness was a 9, now 0. Prior to the program, her self-love was 0. And no wonder all of those other negative symptoms were so high, because there was no self-love. No self-love, 0. After completing the program, she said 10. 10. That's just amazing to say. My self-love is 100%, and that's wonderful. Moments of joy beforehand, she had it at a 2. After completing the program, at a 9. Ability to control her thoughts was 0 before. After the program, 8. Laughter and humor, 0. After completing the program, 10. Hope for the future was at a 1. After completing the program, 8. Ability to stay calm, 1. After completing the program, 8. And keep in mind, this is all 6 months afterwards. So this has lasted after, as soon as she finished the program, this is how she sort of felt fairly quickly. And then this has continued. Ability to bring love and compassion to myself when I'm in negative emotional state. That was at a 2. It's now at an 8. Her presence, ability to stay present, was 0. Now it's at a 7. So I hope that is inspiring for you. These results are absolutely typical of so many women in the program. This isn't some fluke. This is pretty normal. I could also say the same if I'd written a pre-healing and post-healing. My numbers would probably look like that as well. So if you're suffering, please reach out to me. You don't have to keep going on like this. Your psyche is trying to tell you something. It's trying to get your attention. That inner child, it's not a demon that's possessing you. It is a scared, sad, upset, guilty little girl who needs your love so much. That's the truth of it. So I hope that has helped or resonated. And Amber, I hope that answers your question. Feel free to write your questions below and I'll answer them. And yeah, and next week I'll do the same. So please, if you have any questions for me, then just pop them in the group or message me and I will answer your question next week. So thanks for your time this morning or whatever time it is where you are, and have a lovely weekend. See you.